Before we close, I want to just give you the picture of Jesus as the true, final, perfect, ultimate sacrifice. I said there were 5 types of sacrifice set forward in the book of Leviticus. These would be the 5 that the people offered for 1,500 years between Moses and Jesus. These were the sacrifices. Let me show you how they point to the one great sacrifice that we have. First of all, the burnt offering. That was about atonement, and it required a male without blemish. Who does that sound like? Sounds like Jesus. Now, it was offered every morning and every evening, as often as the people sat down to eat, to remind us that we would never, never, for a single moment of this life, outgrow our need for the cross. That was the burnt offering. The grain offering was about provision. The grain offering was anointed. This is the interesting thing about the grain. They would bring some grain, some wheat. It was anointed with perfume before it was handed over to the priests to be offered, so that it smelled good on the altar. Now, Jesus said that he was the kernel of wheat that would be buried in the ground, and he also called himself the bread of life. Do you remember that Jesus was perfumed before he was handed over to the priests? Which means that he smelled good on the cross. And he was crushed like wheat under the millstone of our sin. The peace offering, that was the only type of offering that the common people were allowed to eat, and it was about reconciliation. Now, it says that God would always receive the fat. And that was considered the best portion. And God says, that's for me. You save that for me. But in Jesus, the Father has fed us with the finest portion from his own table. The sin offering was about purification. This was a big one. The sin offering was how we learned that everything we touch gets our sin on it. And how we learned that innocent blood washes away our filth. It teaches us both of those things. But Jesus came along and he was so pure that he couldn't be contaminated. Everything Jesus touches gets holier. You ever notice that? Leprosy dies under his fingertips. Death just gives up. Until the end of the age, his blood cleanses us from all unrighteousness. And then the guilt offering. This was about restitution. The guilt offering reminds us that when we wrong a neighbor, when we sin against another person, we might make it better through our own efforts, like a payment, but it can't actually be made right without a sacrifice. Jesus went to the cross because no matter who we've hurt or how hard we try to make it right, justice can never be satisfied by anything that you or I do. And our guilt remains until someone innocent dies to take it away. You see, Jesus fulfills all of the sacrifices. And he gathers all of their meaning into himself. The cross means all of that and more. He is absolutely unique. He's absolutely perfect. He's absolutely effective for the forgiveness of every sin, and there's nothing other than him that can do it. There's no atonement without Jesus. There's no pleasing aroma besides Jesus. There's no feasting in God's presence if it's not Jesus that we're feasting on. There's no blood that cleanses you and me except his. And there's no removal of guilt unless Jesus, who is the innocent one, removes it. If you need this, let me be the one who is near to the Lord, because I've been in this text all week long, and you're just hearing it right now. Let me be the one who is near to the Lord, telling you that you don't need any other sacrifice besides Jesus. And God will reject it anyways, even if you bring it. The blood of Jesus is the holiest sacrifice of all. Don't you dare treat it like a common thing.